Hi guys, welcome back to the BezoSmart podcast, your number one financial literacy podcast. Is it too late to say Happy New Year? I don't think so. Happy New Year, guys. It's been too long. I'm back again and I have great news. I just launched a finance video series on New Year's money resolutions and how to stick to it. So do check that out as you're on the page. It's so exciting to be here again and stay tuned for our conversation today. Hi, John.
Hi.
You're welcome to the BezoSmart podcast series.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Awesome. When I spoke to you for the first time, it was very pleasant. You were you were so nice.
Thank you.
And all of that. Thank you for doing that. So I'm just going to introduce you to the audience. I have your bio here, so they know a little bit about who we're talking to today. So John Appiah holds a Master's of Arts degree in Communication Studies and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Sociology, all from the University of Ghana, Legon. He is a fellow with the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, Regional Leadership Center, West Africa. John Appiah is the Managing Director of Koforidua Clinic, which is a medical facility that provides health services to the people in Koforidua and its surrounding towns. He's also the lead consultant of A-League Consult, which is an independent human capital development training provider and the co-founder and president of the Africa Chamber for Youth Development. That's an interesting bio. I am so glad to have you on the show.
I'm very happy to be here as well.
Awesome. So today, I just want us to dive into the topic of the financial responsibility of adulthood and how young people, teenagers, maybe people in their national service, people who are even older can sort of relate to this conversation and get some insights from how things are. So this episode was actually inspired by a video I watched on Instagram by this creator called Oladimiji. I just want to show you the video and then you tell me what you think about it. I think they'll play it on the video version for our audience to have a look at it. So this is it. That's it.
That's all.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you see what he ticked?
Yes. I was wondering why he created a third option.
I'm sure. We all thought you'd choose that.
Yes. But
adulthood is
maybe
hell.
He's trying to say there are a lot of options, but at least the first option is hell. So and a scam as well.
Well, that's it. And I also found this extract from The Dark Side of Emerging into Adulthood. Right, it's a book. So it goes like life for emerging adults is vastly different today than it was for their counterparts even a generation ago. Young people are waiting longer to marry, to have children, and to choose a career direction. As a result, they enjoy more freedom, opportunities, and personal growth than ever before. So what do you think about that?
Honestly, I think that a lot of things have changed, maybe ever since that book was written or that structured reading.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the statistics, but I feel that there are a lot of young people that are getting married. Mm-hmm. If not anything, when you go on social media, you see all these wild weddings and all this, they have a way they do the syntax, John Mass, blah, blah, 2020 and all that, and the exuberance and all that surrounds it. It tells me that a lot of young people are willing to settle down very early. A lot more would also want to have babies early in life so that they can focus on their career or their business. And I think that the only thing I agree with 100% was the fact that it's about freedom. And that's why I agree with the young man with the video we watched who thinks that it's a scam, because all we talk about is the freedom, very little about the responsibility part and the actions you have to put in place to ensure you enjoy that level of freedom. So to a large extent, I think that a lot of things have changed, but the fundamental thing remains. If when growing up we're thinking that adulthood is only about freedom, you realize that it's a scam, because then it's not just about freedom. There's more to it than
There's
that.
more to it than financial freedom.
Yeah.
You're right. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, share your experience when growing up from the, let's say, the tertiary stage, the point where you felt you transitioned into adulthood.
Okay. So I'll say I had an early adulthood, and I'll try and explain that to you. When I finished senior secondary school, before I went to the university, I actually started working, because at the point I realized that it is not everything that my parents should provide. Not that they can, but it's not everything that they should provide. And there are some things that I felt at that time I needed to get for myself. So after senior secondary school, I started working full-time as a teacher in Koforidua. And that
After senior
high school,
okay.
exactly. So I felt that opened me up to the world of adulthood, because typically you wait until you are done with the university before you can qualify or call yourself an adult. Technically, they say 18 years and above, but me and you know that one is a scam. It is never true, So at very early in life, I got into adulthood, because then I had to essentially plan my things. I had to, manage my time well. I was responsible for something that I was doing that was earning me money and all that. So once you start earning money, you get a lot of ideas, and it brings a lot of freedom in the sense that you can do what you want to do or buy what you want to buy without necessarily writing a 3-page proposal to your dad or mom trying to explain the benefits of this and that and all that. So very early in life, I realized that, it's important that if you really want to enjoy the freedom we are talking about, you have to have a certain level of responsibility and an income or inflow that allows you to live to the fullest.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you have any fantasies about adulthood? Because I think as I was growing up, or as some people were growing up, you think that, okay, you're in high school and they sell freedom to you when you get to the tertiary level, that once you get there, you're not going to be with your parents, so you can sort of do whatever you want to. And the only thing is that you depend on them financially. So adulthood is like an upgrade to that university lifestyle, where you still have your freedom. You have your own place, you have your own car, you have your own this, and you're living the Kim K lifestyle. So just that now you find out that it's not so easy. You don't just finish school and then are set financially, right? You go through this process of so many experiences and growth. So did you have any fantasies at that moment when you were growing up?
Yes. And for most young people now, because of the boarding house system, very early, some people leave the home and actually spend about 2-3 months in the boarding house, whether JSS or senior secondary school. And that's the beginning of a certain level of freedom, because then at the boarding house, you can decide not to have your bath and go to class. Nobody will come and hunt you or anything like that, So at that level, once you do boarding school, it brings you a certain level of independence and a certain level of thinking around the concept of freedom, all right? And whilst I was growing up, now it's even worse, because social media makes you think that you have to have a car, you have to stay in this Legon, you have to have an iPhone 13 Plus and all that. And they make it look like once you're an adult, it's handed over to you. Go and start life. This is your car, this is your money. But it is definitely not like that. So when I was growing up, my thing was that once I'm a full-blown adult, I can do anything I want, have all the freedom. Little did I know that I have to actually pay for the freedom I'm going to enjoy. So the fantasy I had was that, yes, I could come home at any time, live anywhere I want to live, watch any TV series without any restriction, eat in any restaurant at all that I dream of, have a car and all those kinds of things. But that's where maybe the scam part comes in, because you are hit with reality. Once you are done with school, you realize that no, there's so much more to what it is that we've been told. Yes.
When was your first job? Like, when did you receive your first paycheck, and what did you do with it?
Okay. So as I indicated in the conversation, I started working very early when I completed senior secondary school. I was a teacher in a junior secondary. No, first I started as a primary school teacher. I did that for about 3 months, and I got an opportunity to work with a junior secondary school. The truth of the matter is that my very fair paycheck was with a primary school. It was a very small school. If you put all the students together from class 1 to class 6, there were about 20. So you can just imagine. And my first paycheck was 5 Ghana cedi. I mean, in this dispensation, 50,000. And I realized that at that time, if I took a taxi to work and took a taxi back from work and added my feeding to it, at the end of the month, I can't even save 1 cedi. So I decided at a point to walk to school and walk back from school in order to save more, all right? So I did that for about 3 months, and I got the opportunity to work with a bigger school of about 300 or 400, students. And my salary moved from 5 cedi to 300,000. So that would be like like 30 cedis, 35 cedis comparatively, so that people get the context to it. So from 5 cedis, I jumped up to like 35 cedis. And I also realized that I could do extra classes that could also earn me some more money. So apart from working morning to afternoon, there are some students that need extra help. So we engage with the parents and tell them, okay, after school I can pass by the home and help your child to also improve. And in that process, I was also earning something for myself. So my real paycheck for me was the 35 CD, because that was bigger than the 5 CD, because then I could afford per month, I could afford to do more. And then when the extra classes comes up and you add all 40, 45 CDs, it was a big deal at that time.
Okay. Per what you're saying, it looks like you already had some sort of money management skills at that point.
Unfortunately, I learned on the go. I didn't go to any school or institution, have a mentor, anybody that taught me that this is what I need to do with my money. It just happened. There are a lot of things, lessons I've learned over the years that if I'm advising younger people, I can, put in a word or two. But mine was just on the go. I made mistakes and other things, and later on I learned and all that. So you see, there's an inbuilt, instinct that helps you to manage money. But sometimes you learn through failure and difficulty. But if you have good mentors or a base or a source where you can get a lot of information, you can avoid some of the mistakes other than that. Look, if you make the mistakes.
Right, because you started making money at an early age, that's senior high school.
Yeah.
But most young people, most students really don't prioritize the topic of learning more about money. So I had an outreach somewhere last year where my ambassadors and I would just go around to share flyers on BezoSmart to get the word out there on campus. And you ask someone who is in, let's say, level 300 or level 200, or what's financial literacy, or what's personal finance, and then they just look at you and they just tell you, like, I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about. So do you think it's an important conversation for them to pick up and start?
It's an extremely important conversation, okay? The only thing is that, like I'm saying, when it comes to issues of instincts, when it comes to issues of intuition and all that, you are not like consciously doing it, but you're actually doing it, so to say. So most of the people you spoke to, I'm sure if they really understand the concept of financial literacy and financial management, they are doing it all the same, but they don't know maybe that this is a terminology or this is exactly what I'm doing.
Okay.
If my dad gives me 300 CDs for the semester, I decide that 100 CDs goes into photocopies, 100 CDs goes into this, and the rest of the 100 CDs I spend on myself. What they are doing is financial management, and they are applying a certain level of financial literacy, but maybe they consciously may not come to them that, hey, I'm also applying financial management and financial literacy, but exactly that is what they are doing.
Okay. When you started working as in your official first job after your first degree, did you you were living with your parents?
So I grew up in Koforidua. Okay. So when I went to the university, I didn't go back to Koforidua. So
you stayed in Accra.
I stayed in Accra.
That means you were staying on your own.
Not on my own, I was stretching. Yeah, but at that time I couldn't afford the rent in Accra.
Okay.
So the first place I was staying was two of my very good friends, but older friends who were working, and I could afford to stay with them because then they were paying the rent, they were paying the electricity. How
did you feel though? Didn't you feel like a burden staying on another person?
Yes, I did feel like a burden, but they helped me to transition in that period because you see, they knew that they also went through a similar thing, so they were sort of giving me the opportunity to also put myself together and then move into a place.
So afterwards you moved?
Yes, after a while I moved into my own place. Yes, I think when I was about to start national service, I moved to my own place.
Okay, yes. Okay. Because I think after school, because the whole idea of adulthood is to do on your own and get your own place and all that, some people sort of rush to, I need to leave my mother's house, I need to leave my father's house, even though they are not financially prepared to take care of themselves at that point. So with your case like this, you were honest with yourself.
Yes.
And you sought help from your friends who were older and earning more, so they could house you out.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
No, so you see, let me be honest with you. We are not all the same. Okay. Sometimes some of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So let me give you two scenarios. You grew up in a single room, self-contained. Your mother, your father, your brothers and your sisters all in one place. Obviously, there'll be a lot of pressure on you to move out to be able to get some space for yourself.
You have a peace of mind. How would you work?
Exactly. But imagine you live with your parents, you have a 5-bedroom mansion, and there's so many things to your disposal and all that. Why would you want to rush out to go and stay on your own? You could, if you have financial literacy or financial management, you could actually set aside money And whilst you are still with your parents, you can, prepare yourself adequately to be able to make the big move. You got what I'm trying to say? So I think that sometimes young people will stress ourselves too much. I don't think there's anything wrong, even if after university you are still staying with your parents. Look at Accra. You get a good job in Accra. Your parents have a place to stay. You have a room on your own. You come home and mommy has prepared meals for you. And like, hey, Charlie, I won't be independent. I won't leave the house. Go see someone in parents. So I think that it's a point where people will need to understand the circumstances surrounding what it is that they are doing. They shouldn't think that if you are 18 or 21 or 24 and you live with your parents, you're a failure. It's never true. And look at you and myself. Assuming we keep working hard, in about 10 years time, you want to make a lot of money. So you have a big place for your kids. You can actually afford to buy a car for your kid and all that because you are prepared and you're going through the process. Why do you have to rush them out of the house? 18 years, you throw them, pack their things and ask them to go and live on their own. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just sometimes we compare ourselves to a lot of people. Some people, it was circumstances that compelled them to move out because then they couldn't have that kind of freedom and it was difficult at home and they were a burden to their parents and all that. But some parents can actually afford, and it gives you enough space to be able to plan your life very well. What I went through, I rushed myself out because, in Koforidua, I always had a home, I had a place I could go and all that. But the things I wanted to do, I realized that I couldn't stay in Koforidua and do it. So I had to move to Accra. And more so, my national service, I was posted to Accra. So then I had to make that transition. Other than that, thinking back, I felt that maybe I should have just relaxed, stayed home more, saved and planned well, and then move out big. But, at that time, everybody wanted to come to Accra because it was a big thing at that time. Yes.
I think that pressure contributes to trying to rush financially at an early stage. So even nowadays in school, you have a lot of young people, or some of my mates, you started with them, and then they drop out of school. Why? Because, especially the guys too. Why? Because they are now into some sort of fraud or something, because school is a scam, and through that they can make more money. Because if you go through school and you become an accountant, and I don't know, starting salary is like 2,000 cedis, and you use so much brain power, you also need to be very familiar with like the accounting software, so they're highly skilled. But as someone who sort of just scams for a living, not to say that's easy though, but maybe
they'll disagree with you, yes.
Well, maybe you don't use as much brain power as that accountant would use. So in the end, she's losing, and I am winning.
That's right. So you see, the thing is that we need to understand the concept of education. Honestly, when growing up, my thinking was that once you go to the university, it's easy to get a job. That is not true. You get the point? So people's perception that you go to school just to get a job, that's why it makes it difficult for people to make the best out of the university education. I think that the university education or tertiary education is supposed to give you a certain level of knowledge and information, give you a certain mindset that will allow you to actually make the best out of yourself. But I know people, the courses they did in school, they are not doing anything related to the courses, but at least it gives them a certain leverage upon which they are doing what they are doing now. And the second thing too is about building a network whilst you are in school. Sometimes we're not told some of these things, so you go to school thinking that you just want to make a first class and leave. But you see, even getting a job, it's about the right network, to find yourself in the right network. Even to get somebody to share that there's a vacancy in this organization and that organization, it's a matter of network, all right? So for young people, the other thing they need to understand in order to overcome peer pressure, we are all not the same. I remember I was in a Kwafo hall those days when I was in the university. Yes, farmers, they laugh at us and all that, fine. The first time I went to Pentagon, I almost fainted. I'm like, are these students, are these people here with us? I was like, is it a car show? When are they, closing and going? As John, you're kidding me. These are students, and this is where they live, and and all that. Because you see, it's levels. You need to understand.
Most of them are rented, though.
Yes, I understand, right? But the point I was making was that at that point, what I could afford comfortably was in the Kwafo hall, But somebody, like I'm saying, comes from a very rich background. The father earns about $200,000 every month, big man somewhere, and can afford to put the child in Pentagon. And you, in quote, even struggling to get to university was difficult, but you want to live the same kind of lifestyle that person is living. The mistake we make is that in our comparison, we assume that we're all the same. So if you see me using an iPhone 13, but like, hey, I had to struggle to go and buy it. For just a gift somebody gave me. All right. So the concept of peer pressure, especially at the tertiary level, post-teenage period, people will have to understand that we are all different people and we achieve things at different levels. My first place I lived in was a single room, self-contained. Apparently, it was a kitchen and a storeroom that the landlord converted into a residential facility. And my room was so small that I couldn't do a normal bed. I had to use a sofa bed. So by day, I have my sofa bed because it was very small. Then by night, I stretch it out and I sleep. Somebody may have started life with me in a 2-bedroom self-contained with a swimming pool in the outer court. But you don't have to compare yourself or feel pressurized. It's about what you do with what you have and how you progress and how you advance. Okay. So for me, honestly, when I was in the university, I wouldn't allow peer pressure to get to me at all, because I knew that we had several or different backgrounds, and people did other things to get what they were getting. Some, like we're saying, were doing other fraudulent things that was giving them money. I had a friend, for example, every vacation, he could afford to travel to the UK to work. Master, me, I don't go figure every Saturday travel. No. So I can't compare myself to him when he comes back and he's buying a deck or a TV or something like that. I just have to understand that it's a matter of time. I just have to make the best out of what is that I have. And work towards it. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. You spoke about something interesting. That's like living below your means.
Yeah.
There was this thing where if at the university you were given 300 cedis, you could actually manage that for a month.
Yeah.
But let's say you start working and your first salary is like 2,000 cedis, like obviously you still wouldn't be spending 300 cedis. I don't even expect you to, right? Because you have to level up with the money. But some people are caught in this cycle of lifestyle inflation where they start to spend more than they're earning because now they have some big income coming in. They buy this, they rush to maybe get a car and they pay in installments, so they have like debts hanging on them, and then sooner or later they have like this financial repayment and they're like, oh wow, my money is really on the red side of the graph. So did you ever have a similar experience with that, and how did you go about it?
I don't know how to explain this, but when you get money, or when money starts coming in, it influences the way you think. So maybe you used to say to yourself that I will never buy wachi and buy wele and egg and meat. What is this for? It's a waste. Because maybe at that time, all you can afford comfortably is just wachi and egg. But you work, you earn money, and realize that, oh, it's not bad. Give me one meat, give me one fish, give me this, give me that. Okay, because there's a means to pay for it. So it will take a lot of discipline at a certain point to be able to live within your means.
Self-discipline.
Yes, a lot of self-discipline to be able to do that, especially if you keep comparing yourself to other people. You get what I'm trying to say? So I don't blame a lot of people when they are not able to stay within a particular means, because like you're saying, there's always stress, there's pressure, and also there's availability of funds. You know that, okay, even if I overspend by 10 cedis next month, I can raise that 10 cedis and then cover up for the deficit. But if you don't apply discipline, it becomes a regular thing. All right. So in my case, when I was earning 5 cedis, I made a point that I had to actually walk to school to save some money. But now that I'm earning 35 cedis, what was the essence of walking to school? Because I could afford to pay for the cost of transportation.
The time
yes, but imagine if I still kept that discipline, I could have maybe saved more. But at the point, they say time is money. You have money, you can buy time sometimes. So it's a very delicate balance. It's not a straight, fit, easy thing like that to do. To try and live below your means. Everybody knows that's the best thing, but sometimes you just can't do that.
Sure, it's normal. It's human behavior.
That's right.
Day in, day out, we are filled with different experiences.
Our appetites are changing. Now you want to try something else, and all that. It will influence your spending habits.
Yeah, it will influence your spending habits. I asked a friend last 2 weeks, to summarize adulthood in one word, and he said he couldn't put it in one word because there's a lot of things. But he was able to put it in 3 words. He spoke about financial responsibility, vulnerability, and then performance. So can you shed some light on those 3 things?
The most important thing for me at that level is responsibility. I think that if we have the mindset that adulthood is about responsibility, being responsible for yourself, being responsible for the decisions you take and the actions you take, knowing that for every decision and action there's a repercussion or there's a ramification or there's an impact or effect of that decision, and learning not to blame other people for what it is you are going through in your adulthood. If you're a child, your parents will tell you wear this or wear that. But if you go beyond that level and you're an adult and you decide to wear this or that, then you know that whatever happens to you as a result of that choice, you have to hold yourself responsible and not necessarily keep blaming, your parents or your guardians and all that. All right. So the responsibility part for me is very important. The earlier you come to grips with the fact that the more responsible you are, the more or the better it is for you to enjoy the freedom that comes with it. issue of fulfillment, it is true, because we all have our aspirations, we all have our dreams, we all have our goals. And it is when you grow to the point where you have a certain level of independence that you can decide on what it is you want to do. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with one of my the people I work with in Koforia Clinic about her plans for the future. And she's like, John, I want to do more of fashion, but my parents don't agree. They think that I should go and do marketing in the university, but I don't see where the two connect for me. Then I won't do anything at all. I'd rather stay and not do anything at all. Because it's at a certain level, your parents will have a certain level of influence on you, all right? But the issue of fulfillment, you can go and do the marketing, have your degree, but later on you can still pursue the fashion and still learn it and be fulfilled. And at that point, you'd have enjoyed a certain level of independence such that you can, let's say, afford to pay for the tuition yourself and have enough time or manage your time such that you can combine work with going to learn in the fashion school and then eventually leaving or abandoning the marketing and doing fashion. But again, what you learn in marketing will be very beneficial to you when you go into the fashion, all right? So fulfillment is very important, responsibility and fulfillment. And the last thing you mentioned was
vulnerability.
Exactly. We need to understand that even as adults we make mistakes, even as adults we make errors, even as adults we fail. That is very important, because sometimes the mindset is that it's a Mr. Perfect, Miss Perfect kind of thinking. Once you're an adult, you don't make errors. I told you.
I was going to say that, what if you screw it up?
Yes. You need to make up your mind. You screw it up a number of times, especially if you don't get the right network of people to guide you. You're going to make errors, you're going to make mistakes. But the point is that you can always come back and recover and learn a lesson from what it is that you went through. All right. So I don't think that adulthood is a foolproof thing that prevents people from making errors or screwing up. In fact, most of the deadliest screw-ups were done by adults, full-blown adults. Sometimes you and I sit back and ask, this person, what's wrong with him or her? Little did we know that we will also get to the point where you may be tempted to make such errors, all right? So once you're an adult, it doesn't mean that you don't screw up. You screw up, you make mistakes, you fail. But the point is that you should be able to accept responsibility. That's why the responsibility thing keeps coming back. You can't continue to blame other people for the screwing up, or for the fact that you had agreed with this person that this is what we're going to do and the person failed to show up. So you are blaming the person for what has happened. Admit it's a screw up and then just put yourself together and try again. All right, so as for screwing up, dear Charlie, it is a constant, it's a case.
Sure. Starting your life as a young person, as a young adult, you would usually want to make enough money so your money can buy your time, hence financial freedom.
Yeah.
So you have this grind mindset, this let's secure the bag mindset for, let's say, your early 20s and early 30s. So you're sort of going to give your all into your work, into your business, into whatever is going to fund the lifestyle you're thinking about. And sometimes people burn out, and this grind affects, this hustle culture affects their mental health. So when you're in a situation like that, how do you pick yourself up and be gentle about everything? How do you look at things and say it's okay to take a break, it's okay to take a rest, right?
I think that using my life as an example, I was saying to myself that by the time I'm 26, I was
the year before 30.
Charlie, all these ambitions. But now looking back, I realized that we need to manage our expectations very well, because that's one of the things that easily makes us burn out. And the second thing was that adapting the approach of multiple streams of income. All right. Whilst I was teaching as well, you remember I said I used to
extra classes.
Yes, but I was on a one-on-one basis.
Okay.
So let's say at the end of the month, I get, let's say, some 10 CDs extra. I had a colleague who would rather organize as many students as he could, at a place at a time and do that extra class for them. So obviously he was earning about 30 times, 50 times what I was earning. So sometimes strategy is important.
Smart money move.
Yes, very, very important. So then you should have the perception that you don't have to do one job alone to be able to take you to the point where you're financially independent. You may have to make use of your talents. You may have to make use of your skills. All right. So you may be doing a normal 8 to 5, but beyond the 8 to 5, is there anything else you can do that can bring you some income? And now that social media is helping people to make a lot of money, you could take advantage of that and also use that to earn some. Yes, that's very important. And then the third thing too is that it takes time to be financially independent. In Ghana here, our assumption is that, Charlie, to be really financially independent, you are hitting into your 40s and 50s. Some of the people we admire who are very financially independent and very strong financially, they started about 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we as young people shouldn't think that, today and tomorrow you can become a billionaire or become an overnight success and then just become financially independent. We need to be able to manage that kind of thinking, especially with our time. Other than that, we'll burn out.
No problem. John, would you describe yourself as someone who's financially healthy?
Healthy, I would say yes, but not independent yet.
Okay, independent is a journey.
So people need to understand that you have to be financially healthy as a foundation to be able to build financial independence. And in my opinion, if you're financially healthy, it means that at least on a day-to-day basis, you're able to take care of your basic needs. That is the fundamental.
And manage your money properly.
Yes.
What tips and tools would you recommend to anyone listening to also use to build their financial health?
That's a difficult one, especially when I'm not a banker or a financial analyst. But I will speak from my practical point of view and the experience I've had. I think that the first thing is that you should think of how to be gainfully employed. Because there should be an income coming in before you manage. Because if there's no income coming in or there's no money coming in, what are you really managing? You get my point. So you should be thinking of what it is that you can do that can earn you some income or that can bring in some revenue. You can know all the money management strategies in the world, but if there's no money coming in, then maybe you're managing other people's money and getting money out of managing other people's money. But typically, you should have a plan, or you should work towards the point where there's money coming in. That's important. Once the money comes in, remember that it is about you, not to compare yourself to other people. All right. And if you have the mindset of managing your expectations, you don't rush to do certain things, because sometimes people are taking decisions that maybe hurt them because they didn't really think through. They felt that, well, I'm young, I'm exuberant, I'm energetic, and the money is there. So yes, of course, I had to do what I did. But the point is that you need to have that mindset that it doesn't mean that once the income is coming in, you can just spend it anyhow. The third thing I will advise is that there's a lot of literature that you can actually get online. There are a lot of podcasts, like the podcast we're doing today. There are a lot of YouTube videos, people sharing their experiences, how they started, and all that kind of thing. You can also use that as a tool to help you get a proper mindset. And I think that financial independence is a mindset. You need to have that mindset first before it will materialize to the point where you have all that money in your bank account and all that investment going for you. And again, as you say that in this era, social media can really blind you. Can really cause you to think differently and assume that once you have a three-piece suit on, you are financially independent. No, it goes beyond what we see on social media and the kinds of lifestyles that people are flaunting or showing on social media. So we should not be under duress or stress or peer pressure just to be like the people we see on social media. What you see is maybe the display of wealth. How they get it, they may not tell you. All right. And there's this craze going around where people say, well, I started my poultry farm with one feather and an egg, and today I'm a billionaire.
I saw that.
And all that and all that. Sometimes it is not just real. I mean, honestly speaking, we need to face the facts. They will tell you the good side, but they don't tell you the difficulties, the struggle to go through. And I have a problem with people who maybe came from a very wealthy background, who want to by all means show that they came from a poor background, they were selling pure water on the street. You don't have to be ashamed of it. What you and I are thinking of is that our children and people that will come after us, they will have a very comfortable start. You will not expect that your child will also go through the hassle you went through to be able to make. There's nothing wrong with that. We all wish we had parents that had maybe left behind $10 billion and we're enjoying life, but not everybody had it that way. But we have a chance to make the difference. When we get to that level, we should allow our children to also be able to build on what already has been built.
Awesome. Great. Do you have any last words for our listeners, John?
Yes. I will just tell people not to give up, Charlie. There's the economic situation and the e-levy and all those other things you can think about. Things are increasingly becoming hard. I was telling a friend, actually, just like we are complaining that things are hard, Charlie, somebody has just hit his major breakthrough, and the money is flowing and he's traveling and doing all that. So we shouldn't all assume that everybody is suffering. Today, somebody is buying a brand new Mercedes-Benz from the showroom from hard-earned money. So we shouldn't have the perception that, okay, can I speak some G?
Sure.
We're all suffering together. If you have that mindset, it's also not the very best of mindset. But the point is that make up your mind that on a day-to-day basis, you do something today that will improve your chances of attaining financial independence as you go. And I think that, honestly speaking, not everybody will attain financial independence. But at least as many people as can, they should put in all the necessary, at least try. You don't lose anything if you try and then you don't get there, because it's a long journey. It's not easy. It's not simple. All right. But if you are determined and you continue in that trajectory, maybe a bit of luck will touch you, a bit of favor will come upon you some way, somehow, and then you may attain financial independence. But if you are financially healthy, you can take care of yourself and your needs and all that, you should be appreciative. You should be happy about it. But know that you can build on that and get to a point where you can actually, those that depend on you can also have that level of financial health as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, John. I'd like to end with a quote that says, all life is an experiment. The more you experiment, the more you know. So in regards to young people starting their financial journey and entering into adulthood, the more you experiment, the more you know. Thank you so much, John, for joining me today on the BezoSmart podcast. Where can we reach you on social media?
So when you go to social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, John Appiah. Appiah, that's my name.
I'll put that in the show notes,
yes,
so you
can easily get access to that. Yes, and then I also run a show, like I told you in our conversation, called the John Appiah Show. That is exclusively to help young people to build themselves professionally and personally to be able to make the best out of what it is they are doing. It's called the John Appiah Show. So when you also search for that, you can also get access.
Where is it?
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Yes, but also on Facebook pages and social media pages as well. And I think that young people should just desire to grow themselves. Because you see, the adults who are ahead of us, the generation ahead of us, will not just open the door for us. We should prove that we are capable. And when we prove that we are capable and able, I believe the doors will open for us.
Thank you. I love that. We've come to the end of our show, and I want to thank our listeners today for staying through with us and for listening to this wonderful episode. I hope you've learned a lot, and you must remember that it goes past what you're listening to. You have to apply whatever you're learning. You have to sift through and find the useful bits of information that you can put into your life. So I want to encourage all of you, no matter where you are at any stage of your financial journey, you can do it. Just be patient, keep your eyes on your goals, ensure that you're constantly educating yourself and going back to checking what didn't work out, and then you put that into practice. So if you enjoyed this episode, kindly hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to this via audio, wherever you are, Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor, just subscribe and share your friends. Share this podcast with your friends so we all grow and learn together. Thank you all. Thank you, John, for being here. Such a pleasure once again. And before I leave, be financially smart. Bye, guys. See you.